$3,500 for that, assuming you don't have access to natural gas.
And that's
So
part of
there-
the energy, Energuide program, but it's for new homes.
That's part of the provincial grant program for new homes. Yes, yeah. But again, the $3,500 incentive for geothermal does not apply if you have access to natural gas, but it does apply if you have, if you're supplying the geothermal system with renewables. So even if you have natural gas to your site, you can still get the $3,500 if you're driving your geothermal system with renewables, like PV system or something along those lines.
Has anybody ever done that?
Or wind.
I think I only know one.
Just baffles me.
Yeah, so to try and drive a geothermal heating system with renewables is a challenge, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
pretty tough, yeah.
Okay, but if you don't have access to natural gas, and I think they deem having access to natural gas as if it costs more than, I think it's $9,000 to get it run in, that's deemed that you don't have access to it, in which case, if you do put a geothermal system in and run it off the electrical grid, you get the $3,500 incentive, as long as it's done by a licensed geothermal contractor. Yeah.
Is there also some rebates on PST for high efficiency?
There,
Appliances as well?
again, it's not the program that we're involved with, but there's a PST rebate, refund, whatever you want to call it, if you buy Energy Star appliances.
Appliances, yeah.
Dishwashers, refrigerators, clothes dryers, things like that. Okay?
Yeah,
Do you have to apply for that, or is it just
So,
done at the
in most
store?
cases, I think the retailers will not charge it right from the get-go, but it may vary from retailer to retailer. I know when I bought my dishwasher a couple of years ago, it was Energy Star, and they didn't charge PST at all, it was just the GST. So whether you pay it and then get a refund, or whether you don't pay it at all in the first case, I'm not sure, it probably varies a little bit, but that PST is waived or refunded or whatever. Energy Star is their criteria,
Right.
okay? Yes.
Yeah, because our natural gas boiler that we bought from the wholesaler there, yeah, we didn't even pay the PST right off.
Right.
It had to be, I think, a 92
Yeah.
AFU.
It affects most people from the point of view of appliances, not so much from heating equipment and things like that. So it's usually like things like dishwashers, refrigerators, clothes washers, and you know, that type of thing. Yes.
And one last question that's on my to-do list for this week, and maybe you've already got it. So we get a lot of questions of people coming here on tours saying, well, what's the difference between minimum code, R2000, Energy Star, Energuide,
Yeah.
and LEED? Is there such a thing as a table that just says, here's what's included in each and here's the differences? Have you seen
Not
something like that?
specifically. First of all, in Saskatchewan, there is no energy code. Saskatchewan is one of the few provinces in Canada that does not have an energy code. So you could literally probably go out and build a 2x4 R8 wall, and it would meet code, or could meet code.
Could be, yeah.
The criteria of the code is that your heating system can keep your house to a certain temperature, right? So there's no minimum insulation levels, there's nothing like that, like there is in many of the other provinces. At this point in time, and that may change going forward, we don't know yet, but because a new version of the building code is coming down, and it's going to have some energy stuff in it, and that may well get adopted in Saskatchewan, we don't know yet. So in Saskatchewan, we don't have an energy code. So the difference between the different programs out there is that this is simply a rating. We've rated new homes that are rated as 62. We've rated new homes that are rated an 89. It just depends on what you put into them. There is no threshold for when you're just rating a house.
Right.
There is a threshold for Energy Star. It needs to be hit approximately 80. And R2000 is very similar, but R2000 is a performance. And R2000 houses, every house needs to be rated 80 or higher because it's a plan evaluation, that whole performance side of things. So typically there's no minimums in R2000. If you can hit that 80 rating, but you may only have an R12 in the basement, or you may only have an R40 attic. As long as it hits the 80 rating, because maybe some of the other components make up for a reduced insulation level up there. So Energy Star for new homes and R2000 use 80 as their benchmark, and how you get there is slightly different, but that's sort of where they're at. That's not to say that they can't rate higher, and many of them do, but that's sort of like the minimum. Okay? And LEED, As I indicated before, Ron, it's in the high 70s is I think the starting point.
76.
Is it 76? And then anything beyond that, you get credits or points for every rating that you're above that. So if you go from a 76 to a 95, you can probably get, I don't know if it's a
30
point for
points.
point or not.
32 points to get from 76 to 100, I think.
Okay.
32 or 36, it's big, like it's
Okay.
a huge number.
Yeah, yeah.
We were targeting for this house, I think we had to get 82, because we got a compact design credit. So
Yes.
it was 82 to
Yeah.
get platinum, and 40 of it comes from
From energy.
energy, and
From-
another 10 comes from being at Surlia with zero scaping and no watering,
yeah,
you know, so
yeah.
the rest of the house was not that hard to do.
So in the LEEDS program, energy is one of the components,
One of
one of the 8 components, and there's 7 other ones there as well, but you may put lots of your focus on the energy side of things, which this house obviously has.
Well, you have to get platinum, but you could build a really nicely balanced home,
Yes.
sustainably balanced home.
And I think that that's one of the other things that when you talk about balance is that when you look at the whole building envelope, which is basically the structure or the barrier that separates the interior conditioned space from the exterior environment, you sort of want to balance there. That makes the most sense. So you don't want to go overboard in one and way under in the other, because that's not very efficient. You know, to have an R80 attic but then have an R12 wall doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You sort of want to balance there as well, because that seems to be most cost effective, most efficient thermally, and everything else like that. So again, it's in that whole balance thing that for that whole building envelope. Okay. Any other questions?
That was my list. So that you don't have this table, this magic table, because I guess the answer is no.
I'm not sure what you mean by a magic
Well,
table.
I want a table that I can put up a poster on the wall that there's, here's basic home, here's R2000 Inner Guide.
Well, R2, if you're just looking at are you just looking from the rating point of view? Or are
How
you
the
looking
building's
from the
compared.
specification
Yeah,
point?
specification.
See, because R2000 doesn't have a minimum specification, for the most part. You just you can do whatever you want as long as you hit the 80 rating.
Yeah.
So if you have a really efficient mechanical side of things, you can back off on the insulation side, and the insulation may be less than the Energy Star because the mechanical equipment is that much more efficient. So because R2000, like I said, is a performance-based program.
And the only criteria is hitting 80.
80.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you
It's
have to
sort of a
have,
prescribed thing of, here's a bunch of things you can do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day.
I think the minimum is if you have to have double glazed windows and you have to have insulation in all the exterior walls and stuff like that, but it doesn't
Yeah.
say it needs to be R20 or something like that, it just all needs to be insulated
Yeah.
and things. And so there's no minimum of R60 in the attic, it could be R30, as long as you can hit the 80 rating, you can go there. And you've got to meet building code requirements, but like I said, in Saskatchewan, we don't have an energy code, so there's nothing in our building code to say it's got to be R40 or 50 or something along those lines. So that's the difference basically between Energy Star and R2000, is that Energy Star is prescriptive. It says if you build R50 attics, R20 wall, R20 basement walls, you have this mechanical equipment, these Energy Star windows, and a certain air tightness, and all of that good stuff. You put in Energy Star lighting and Energy Star air conditioning, it'll be labeled as Energy Star. Whereas R2000 is performance. As long as you hit the 80 rating with that computer analysis simulation, and that's what you deliver out in the field, you're good to go. I think one of the few things in R2000 is that your air tightness needs to be 1.5 air changes or less. That's one of the few quantitative measurements that there's a minimum set for.
Which you could,
But even that would be information for people to see. So here's the minimums things and the rest is
Yeah.
80.
so what you could do is actually have like Dave was saying, there's no energy code for the national building, but you could have standard building practice and then Energy Star, because it has specifics.
If we
and then
back-
you could have whatever Verico is
Oops,
and,
yeah.
and lay it out
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, sort of
So
the
is
things
it-
that you need to do for R2000 because
Yeah.
there's
See, what
specs.
this may not be quite, it might be a little confusing, but maybe not. If we went with these 12 items on here, and then we could have almost like a spreadsheet. Inner Guide for new, Energy Star for new homes, R2000 and LEED, and what's the requirement for each of these 12 items or components? We could do something like that, that would be possible. Again, for R2000, there may not be any requirement, it's simply hit a rating of 80.
Yep.
Or something like that, eh?
Would you guys have that, like if I put up together this spreadsheet, could I sit with you for half an hour and you tell me what to check the
Yeah.
boxes?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
do that. I would start the spreadsheet with Lee, because it's the most
Yeah.
total, and then you'd work your way down
Yeah.
to what's included in the standard.
Sure.
I understand the minimum construction code is very minimal, and then I think we have what I would call standard construction. So
Yeah, see-
when Demont modeled this house, he used what was called standard, so it's
Yeah.
2x6 wall, R40 ceiling.
See, what's quite interesting is that even though in Saskatchewan, as I said, we're one of the few provinces that doesn't have an energy code, we probably build more efficient houses than they do in most other parts of the country because we have to.
Climate
We're-
change, right?
Yeah, and that's what the market is asking for and demanding. Like if some builder out there all of a sudden decided to build 2x4 R12 walls, they probably couldn't sell their houses because everybody just assumes 2x6 R20 is like the minimum, and then you go beyond after that. So it's sort of like what the market is demanding, what the climate requires, a whole bunch of different things like that. So even though we don't have an energy code, our houses are probably as efficient as they are in
Anywhere else.
any other parts of the country. Yeah.
So,
Air leakage, we build some of the tightest houses in the country. Our insulation levels are as good as they are anywhere else. We put in better windows usually than they do in Ontario and BC and other places. Mechanical equipment is on the high end. Most of our builders are putting in HRVs as a pretty standard already, you know, stuff like that. So we build a pretty good house even though we don't have an energy code.
I've got the NRC database of all the audits that were done from 2007 to the middle of 2010 for the year to my thesis. There's 670,000 D audits, and so I've got lots of data, and you can see when you mark it, you can see how we had a really bad